He forecasts surf for a living, photographs Kelly Slater in heavy Sydney waves, and turned his love of the ocean into real environmental change. Today, I chat with a man who's literally living the dream. From Swellnet, the Australian Surf Forecasting and Information Service, Craig Brokensha. Thank you so much for listening to One Breath Conversations Below the Surface, a podcast exploring how the ocean transforms lives and shapes identity. This podcast was born from my own journey as a surfer, freediver, photographer, and mother. I have experienced the undeniable pull of the ocean and wanted to create a space for conversations with other water people to explore how the ocean has shaped their journeys too. My hope is that we can inspire you all to reconnect with our natural world, explore our blue backyard, and make bold choices in your own lives. Welcome back. Thank you for listening. Today, my guest is Craig Brokensha. He is a surf forecaster from Swellnet. Hi, Craig.
Hi, Katie. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. You and I have known each other a good while now. I think we met in the surf. I think that's where our sort of connection is from.
On the northern beaches over, I don't know, over a decade ago. Or
Well, we're just saying it's been a while since I've been on a surfboard, so yeah, a good while ago. And so let's just get right into it. I feel like your career and your lifestyle revolves around the ocean. So can you tell me more about your connection to the ocean, where it began and what it means to you now?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Adelaide and actually up in the northeast suburbs of Adelaide, which surf-wise, it's an hour away to a kind of surfable wave. And if you go down to like Victor Harbour, where most people surf, it's like an hour and 20. So I didn't really grow up near the beach, didn't have that introduction to it until my parents started taking us on summer holidays down around Port Elliot, Victor Harbour. And that was probably, I don't know how old, it would have been in the primary school years. And then we'd just bodyboard, body bash at the shore break at Horseshoe Bay. Then kind of started getting to better waves, but not proper waves. There's a shore break at Knights Beach, which is real heavy boomers, but literally just taking off in the shore, trying to get barreled and getting smashed. And then I think it was maybe late high school, we were still doing the trips. So it was every year in summer for 2 weeks. And I probably noticed surfers out there and something must have clicked with me and just I thought I want to give that a go. And so the amazing thing was, even though where I was living was out in the suburbs away from the beach, I think I was looking on the classified, because this is before online like Gumtree or Amazon Facebook or anything, marketplace. And there was an ad for a surfboard secondhand, and it was in the next suburb over. So I went and got it, and it was, back in I think it was, when it was 2002, around there. It was a thin, like 6'1", super thin, narrow board, which if you gave it to me now, I'd struggle to surf. But I just went down to the coast by myself, went out at Middleton, and then basically taught myself to surf. I reckon the first time I went down there, I didn't actually stand up on a wave, but I just learnt to kind of get the momentum of the waves. And Middleton's a very weak, slow wave anyway. And then I remember we had the summer holidays, so I must have done it in November or so, but went down again with my parents for the 2 weeks holidays, and I went 3 times a day, every day. I did a dawny, lunchtime surf and then an afternoon surf, no matter the conditions, because you're a beginner, you're not getting out the back, you're just trying to catch a wave. And then those 2 weeks, going 3 times a day, I remember the progression was like quite, steep. I improved quite a lot, and then I was hooked. And I guess my life from then started to transform or revolve around the ocean compared to like skateboarding and riding on bikes out in the suburbs. I started to kind of go on road trips and going surfing with mates. So yeah,
that's listening to your story, I really feel some similarities with my journey. I remember when I had tried surfing at uni. So I'm from the UK originally, and
Yep.
I joined the surf club at uni, and we used to go down to Cornwall. And so I'd had these sort of like little, I thought it looked cool, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll give it a go. And then when I arrived in Australia, the very first thing that I did when I arrived in 2008 was buy a surfboard off Gumtree, paddled out in North Spain, had no understanding of rips,
Yep. Oh
ocean,
God.
like
Yep.
anything. And the lifeguards were on the tannoy. Hey,
Yeah.
you're caught in a rip. You need to turn around and paddle back. And I was like, they talking to me. And so,
Exactly.
I sort of had no paddle strength, sort of drifted and paddled in, and then sort of, people would come along the beach, are you okay? Are you okay? But, and then I was working in surf retail and I wasn't making any improvements with the surfing. And the guys in the store said, yeah, you got to go out. You got to go out every day, Katie. You just got to go out every day, all conditions. And isn't it funny, like listening to your story, that testament that you weren't even living anywhere near the surf, but you still had that pull and that motivation to just keep on trying. Even like it's not a sport that comes easily, I don't think.
No, that's it. And that's the whole thing. You're sitting out in the surf, you're paddling for probably 95% or sitting around not catching a wave for 95% of the time, and then you're up for a few seconds, but it's those few seconds that kind of grab you and keep you kind of addicted.
I feel like I have some memories of seeing you in the surf actually, maybe early in the morning, but like on the way to work, like, oh, just one more.
Yes,
You were hanging out, and you sort of then you get that one good one, and I go, oh,
I know, that's it. You should go in, but you force it too long, then you come in too late. And the thing is that also, I started a degree in engineering at Adelaide Uni.
Yeah, right.
Doing computer systems with finance, but as I started to go surfing more and enjoying that ocean lifestyle more, I just lost interest with the degree. Oh, well, it just wasn't what I was expecting. And it was a 5-year degree. I'd done 3 years of it, and I was at this crossroads where I spent so much time. I was worried my parents were going to say if I'd kind of quit or change degree. But I remember one of my good mates was working at Coles doing night shift, and his name was Shane, and he said, if that's what you want to do, just change. And this is the other thing, there was an oceanography degree at another uni. So I was floating up the idea of switching unis from Adelaide Uni to Flinders and totally changing my kind of trajectory. And I thought about it and actually did it, and I told my parents, and that they were fine because I wasn't quitting my degree. All of the oceanography study that I did at Flinders Uni, there's a lot of maths, physics, fluid dynamics. So that I transferred over like 1.5 units of, 1.5 years of credit. So there was like 72 units, and I only had to do the core subjects at the Flinders Uni. So I had part-time uni work, which I loved. I got kind of distinctions, and then the uni down at Flinders Uni, it's close to the mid-coast, only 20 minutes away. And that's in the Adelaide Gulf. So I could go to uni and then get an afternoon surf, and it was kind of win-win. And from there, I kind of, just chased that ocean, kind of pushing my work towards being able to surf and work.
Isn't that incredible? Again, that's kind of the motivation behind this podcast and having these conversations with people, because I feel like the ocean, in my personal experience, the ocean has dictated everything in my life, that pull, like what I've done for work, where I've lived in the world, where I've lived in particular cities, the community of people that I've met. Everything, even like down to lifestyle, because when I was surfing every day, I wouldn't want to go out on the nighttime because I wanted to get up for a dawny.
Yes,
and,
exactly.
You can't do that when you're like hungover
I know,
or
commitments
tired.
like family birthdays and that. You're like, oh, but tomorrow's bumping. It is a great thing for you, but also it can get in the way of some kind of important life decisions.
Well, yeah, I do agree with that. But what you've done, you're almost ahead of the curve, because I feel as though a lot of us are sort of, perhaps I'm older than you, but that coming from that generation of people, having our parents that like, this is the life, this is the way that your life should go. You need to get a trade, or you need to get an education. You need to go and get an what they might consider, the sort of older generation might consider, like a proper job. And so you do that for a while, and then all of a sudden you realize you're fitting a square peg in a round hole, and you're still trying to fit everything in. And you get to my stage in life and the wheels start to fall off. And I feel like I'm having more conversations with people like yourself who are making those decisions earlier in life to live a life more aligned. And it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, and that was the best decision I ever made, I reckon, in my life, switching degrees, and it totally kind of changed my trajectory. I wouldn't be living over on the east coast of Australia. I'd still probably be in Adelaide surfing, and the good thing about South Australia, it's a great core surfing community. Every time I go home, go out west or Yorks, you always see the same people, the committed surfers, and it's very, it's like that. It's very good community. Shifting over to the east coast, warm water, lots of fun, peaky waves. It's just easy.
So does it work that brought you to the Northern Beaches or like Sydney area?
Yes. So I was doing my honours in oceanography at Flinders, and actually on Swellnet, we've got a wave of the day, which we still have to this, and people send in photos, and we have Stu, editor. It was Ben back in the day, who's still the founder, but he did the editing of picking the photos for the wave of the day. I sent in a photo from the south coast of South Australia, because on my trips I was taking the camera as well, because you go to these beautiful places, and when the waves are pumping, that's just so photogenic. So I was sending this image for wave of the day as a submission to Ben. And I also was like, hint, hint, I'm doing this degree. But he kind of knew what I was doing, because we were on this other ski.com forum, which had a surf thread. And then people from around Australia would put their, like a surf diary. And he was on there and would talk a little bit about incoming swells. So Ben's always originally from Adelaide as well. So he'd moved to Sydney to kind of grow Swellnet, but he was coming back to Adelaide during the middle of the year and wanted to catch up for a coffee. So we caught up, and it was just luck that week, the South Australian forecaster, who was working for the Bureau of Meteorology, he just had too much work on and couldn't do it anymore. And so Ben was like, do you want to give the South Australian forecast to go? And I was doing a bit of my own forecasting, because I was going to the Yorke Peninsula, which you kind of need to know when to go. It's 3 hours from Adelaide. You don't want to drive all that way, and then there's no waves. And reading Ben forecasts, I got a good understanding and idea of how to read the charts. And so, yeah, I remember this is before you had also internet connected to your phone. So I would get on my parents' computer before uni, pull up all the charts and download image by image and name them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on a USB. And then on the way to uni, it was an hour bus ride, step through the images and start writing my forecast. And then I would upload it at midday. Yeah. And so that obviously, I think that went well. And then Ben needed someone full-time in Sydney. So near the end of my honours, he kind of said, are you up for moving to Sydney to work for us full-time? And I just said yes straight away. I remember my mum was like, what? You're moving? And she's like, and I'm like, oh yeah. I was just thinking warm water, as I said, East Coast, like waves all over. You see in the magazines and the photos are like, yeah, East Coast is the dream for an Australian surfer. So yeah, I think I finished my honours, got first class honours, and moved in February, 2009.
Yeah, so we would have landed in Sydney around the same time. I feel like, again, like making that move for you, aside from the draw of the waves, the community, like the surfing community, as an outsider and female, they weren't so friendly in those early days. I used to get teased a lot, and I used to get like hoosted onto waves that I was never going to make, so everyone could laugh at me go over the falls. But I feel like for you, it was probably a different experience. That, I would imagine the community welcomed you with open arms. And I mean, aside from being a legend and a surfer, and you've got all that inside knowledge, and everyone loves to chat about surf, waves, the ocean. It's just yeah.
Actually, opposite. I think when I first moved to Sydney, because I didn't know anyone, and Manly, North Staines very competitive, as you said. Yeah. Same with Queensy, and I remember the guys, kind of like, snarling, or like like calling you off waves, just because they're just a bit, protective. And it took me probably a few years, if not longer, to work my way into the community. But now I know everyone, and you speak to everyone in the water and say hello. And then some people I've never met, but they'll just come up to me and go, oh, what do you think that swell's doing on the weekend? I'm like, yeah. It's really good to give that information. And I guess I stand out a bit with the kind of blonde hair. I've had a shave, but usually got the dark beard and the bleached blonde hair from the sun. But yeah, it's the Northern Beaches community and the Manly community now. It's a great surfing community, and I've loved. I was there for 16 years, and it was incredible.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like it really changed over time. Even I don't surf anything like what I used to, but I feel, again, as a female, there weren't that many of us in the water. Do you remember this lady? And you always used to see her around sort of like North Stain, I think. And she rode a longboard. Sue. Sue.
Yeah.
And she was notorious. She used to call me on space like, this one's yours, this one's yours.
Yeah.
And I'd paddle and it would like hollow out. And I was like, But now I feel like
Yeah, there's a lot of women out there, a lot of
yeah.
young girls. It's amazing. You see a lot of like, especially with the dads, teaching their girls to get out there. It's great.
Yeah, I love that. But then I also wonder, I actually had this conversation with somebody the other day about surf etiquette. I wonder if there is, and I don't know if this is a conversation that you've had with other people. I feel like with the amount of people in the water, particularly in busy locations like around the northern beaches, that when I learned to surf, there was definitely like a hierarchy, and in a way, it was kind of good because you learnt the rules and you learnt that surf etiquette to keep everybody safe. But I feel like maybe over time in those busy places,
I think definitely freshwater's lost that now.
Yeah, right.
Freshwater's just a free for all, longboard beginners, and there's so many injuries coming out of there. Of friends have moved there, and it's just chaos. You can't surf it. But I think North State, like the real kind of quality waves, once the kind of I'm nice about it as well. I'll be like, oh hey, I think this is a bit out of your limit, like you better off going South Stain, and they appreciate it because they're out there floundering around. They don't want to get in anyone's way. And yeah, it definitely had increased, especially over the COVID years when everyone took up surfing, but I think it's mellowed back a little bit now. But it comes in ebbs and flows.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good thing about Manly. It's sort of like you've got something for all levels. Like when it's pumping, you go down, like you sort of
you can
pick your
get
spot.
out of the swell, out of the wind. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, it's really good. So we've sort of spoken about the way that the ocean has shaped your identity, but one thing that we didn't speak about, you're saying you moved to the northern beaches with the work, but and you also said that you were doing the photography when you were in South Australia, but I feel like that sort of has expanded a little bit. Like you do a lot of big wave photographing.
Yes.
Would that be right to say? Like when it's on at Debbie's and...
Well, part of that, as my first, how I got the job with Swellnet was sending through that wave of the day photo. I guess I started figuring out, or going on road trips up and down the New South Wales coast, chasing swells, surfing them myself. But if it was big, crazy, slabby waves, I'd have my camera and take photos. There was actually, I did my MCL twice. I think it was 2011. And when I did my knee, I was going for surgery and I was out of the water for 3 months. And during that time, I bought a better camera.
Yeah.
Yes, so I was chasing swells, surfing them myself, but if they were too big and heavy, just taking photos. But I think it was about in 2011. I did my knee surfing, just doing a turn. I think I was just run down after a big night out. And then I did my MCL twice. And then I had to go into surgery later that year for them to kind of fix it up. And I'd be out of the water for 3 months. Oh, and that's when I started then focusing more on a bit of photography, just to kind of, 3 months out of the water when I was surfing nearly every day, it's a big hit. But taking photos of the surf still gave me that connection. And even though I wasn't surfing the waves, it felt like I was still part of the kind of, what was going on out there. Then I think it was towards the end of maybe 2018, 2019, my mate Steve Wall, he sent me a message, and he's an amazing cinematographer, surf photographer, that there was a cheap housing going one of his mates had. And so I picked it up, and then I started to just play around to do some water stuff. I remember I was at Palmy. There was a nice northeast wind swell, like 2 foot, and just swimming around, getting some photos. And then we hit COVID, and then COVID, the 3 back-to-back La Ninas, the surf firstly 2020, it just pumped, absolutely pumped. It was kind of stuck on the northern beaches, but that's when surfing got so popular. I was like, it's too busy for me. I'm not having much fun. But when I went swim with the camera, I could still be immersed in it. But everyone catching every wave, it's like I was surfing their waves. It's so enjoyable. And then some big swells come along, and I went swimming at Deadman's, and then started to figure out this perfect angle. And then I got some beautiful shots. One session actually, because Kelly was on the northern beaches during one of the lockdowns, and I heard he was around on the beaches actually. And a few mates had run into him in car parks, and he was just surfing, just, everyone was kind of around the world, didn't know what was happening. And I went out Deadman's for a late session. It was like 8 foot, maybe 8 to 10 foot. And I had a 50 mil, and I was sitting right in under where they take off. And I remember this guy paddled out, or he jumped off the rocks, and then bald head, but I thought it was just, local guy. And then he tried to take off onto this crazy double up, which none of the other guys doing. It didn't make it. His pin dropped out. But he popped up and he started paddling back, and I saw the OK on his wetsuit, and it was out of known. I'm like, you're kidding. Kelly's out here. I was only the one in the water shooting photos. No one, I think it was late, so people didn't know he was out there, people on the cliff. And I remember because I was in the perfect spot and he was just getting the inside ones, letting the locals get the bigger ones. He was just paddling past me, getting these beautiful waves, and just had a little kind of, little chat connection with him. And it was great. That was, yeah. And then I started shooting when it got to like 12, 15 foot, and I kind of sit back with the long lens and get the kind of cliffs in the background. And I think Sam Jones, I got a photo of him last year on this huge barrel, and it's probably one of my favorite photos I've taken.
I feel like I've seen that, and I might ask you to share it so I can share it
Yes.
in the show notes when this
Yeah.
goes to air. You are listening to One Breath, Conversations Below the Surface with me, Katie Jackson. If you're loving our Blue Mind content, please consider subscribing to the show and sharing it with your ocean-loving friends. Isn't it interesting? Like there's so many things that I want to like dig out of what you've just said. Like firstly, that time out of the water, and then that sort of pull to get back in the water, and still getting that fulfillment and connection through the photography. Again, it's something that I really identify with. And again, it sort of like really gets down to like the motivation behind having these conversations, because.
And you're immersing yourself underwater. Your photos and you took Ayumi, my partner's pregnancy shots in crystal clear. They're just, everyone sees them. They're like, how is that? That's AI. I'm like, no, that's Katie. It was amazing clarity, but yeah, your underwater photography is incredible.
Oh yeah, thanks. But I feel like I used to surf every day, and it was such a big part of who I was. And then when I had my first baby and the relationship with her dad broke down, I didn't have time. I don't have any family in Australia. I couldn't just like take off and get a babysitter while I go surfing.
Yes.
Yeah. But, and so, I had time out. And then even before I had Abby, I think it was in 2014, I herniated a disc in my back, and it was so bad that I actually was so incapacitated I couldn't even carry a bag. And I was like, is this me? Like I couldn't walk. And
yes.
I was working in an office in Manly at the time, and I used to walk past, all the guys having a yarn at
On
North
the benches.
Lane.
Yeah.
I just look out at the sun. I was like, is that it? Is that me? Because I'd never gone through any kind of like sports injury or any, didn't really understand that sort of mental
where it puts
challenge.
You out of the water for something you love and live for. Yes.
Yeah, and just I couldn't even imagine feeling well enough or physically able to do it again, but I did. But yeah, I feel like for me, the photography started to fill that void, sort of like that pull and that connection from the ocean.
Yeah, and I think now being in the water when Dead Man's is breaking in that heavy water, it is like you see the sets, the huge, and you're sitting in the water, so you see the huge mountains kind of coming from far away. You get nervous. Am I in the right spot that it's not going to hit me or, wash me in, or you could drown? Then you see them catching these waves and you capture it. And then it's like surfing every wave with them. And I know most of the guys that are surfing these waves. And then afterwards to share the photos with them, to show them Stoke on the back of the camera. I remember that evening with Kelly, everyone, because it was late, everyone had gone in. The car park was quiet. He ran to the shower late. And then just in the car park, there was just the locals, Kelly, me, and we're going through the back of my camera, reliving every wave. And he remembered people's waves. Like, he was like, we were all just chatting, looking at the back of the camera. And it was just like, I didn't surf any of those waves, but kind of capturing and being with the community, it is like you're still out there surfing it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think as a photographer, when you have captured that like hero image, in those moments.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's such a thrill. And then to be able to share it with the person that you have captured, I can imagine for you sharing that with Kelly. Interestingly, what you were just saying about his positioning, did he know that he was that sort of, I'm assuming he would do with his.
Yeah, he surfed Eddies a few times before.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, he was just using his expertise as being able to take off under the kind of double up lip to nail it. So yeah.
Something that I was thinking about before we were talking today, and it sort of fits in really nicely here. I saw a conversation with Barton Lynch. I feel like maybe it was a couple of years ago now. I mean, it's still recent. It was like when he's had his big bushy beard.
Yes.
And the conversation was, I think his mum had given him a surfboard when he was younger, and how surfing in the ocean is like a religion, and he is so grateful for this life skill, and it's a life skill that he wants to pass to his children because, when he is sick or, when he's sick in his life or when he's gone through emotional turmoil, he's always got the ocean. And it sounds a bit woo and a bit hippie, but I feel like, again, anyone who has that connection understands that. And it's something that I really want to try and impart on my kids. And I feel like the outdoor lifestyle that your family lead, you probably feel the same way.
Oh, totally. Yeah. You paddle out, you could have a very bad day or mentally you just is not coping and you go out in the surf or even just, you don't even need to catch a wave, out in the ocean, go for a paddle in a just quiet, beautiful environment. And it's a total reset. It's so good for the mind and the body. The endorphins from exercise as well. It is that one thing. It's addictive. That's the thing. And then you just got to adjust your expectations for that because sometimes, you go down the beach, you see it's pumping and you paddle out with high expectations, don't get any, and you come in feeling like frustrated. But then other times you go down and then you've got no expectations. You're just going for a swim. You get a couple of waves. You come in so happy. So it's, It's one of those things, but I surf nearly every day in any conditions because I know just being out there, being amongst the, all the wildlife, the ocean life and just such a raw environment, you can still escape the city and the head bustle and it's special.
It's really like a skill for life, isn't it? Do you know what you were just saying? I feel like even if you're having one of those surfs where like you're just in the wrong spot every single time, you're paddling up and down the beach, you're in the wrong spot every time. But you see your mate down the beach or someone that you know, and just like they're just in the spot. Like you're just like, man, I feel like I've seen you when we've been like you and I have been having one of those days where it's just like one of us is having an epic failure, and then the other one's just like wave out, like it's just like a roundabout.
Yes, yeah. And then,
but you feel good, like you're cheering. You're like
exactly.
the person
hooting.
that
Exactly. I think I've been accused of being too loud in the surf sometimes because I'm hooting in people into waves and losing it. But yeah, that's just from people who don't like enjoyment, I feel.
But I feel like that's the joy. Do you know what I mean? Especially like yourself. Like if you get like a sick wave and just like and like you just like, did anyone see that? That was like all the way to the stepped off on the sand.
Yeah. And that's a good thing with sharing the surf with my partner Yumi because we've got 18-month-year-old. We have tag team surfs, and when we can on the weekends, we'll set up the tent and just have 5 waves each. And it's so good seeing her get her waves and cheering her on. I was like, that was a sick one. Yeah, that's pretty special.
I feel like it's just like you're living the dream, and I think to have a partner who understands. Lucky. Yeah, I mean, going back to what we were saying before, it is addictive and it's such a huge part of your life, surfing in the ocean. And I think, I don't know which would be more challenging, to have a partner who loves it equally and understands it, or someone who doesn't but is willing to let you get out there as much as you need to.
I think having someone do it with you or experience is best because you don't want them just sitting on the beach.
I agree.
You come in so happy, they're just sitting on the beach watching. They can't really get that understanding, I feel. If they do surf, even just small waves, not big waves, they get that kind of, they know that feeling of elation, endorphin rush from a good session, or just that also body soreness from like you've had a good run of swell and you're just like relaxed and just like, oh, I've had enough, but you want more.
Yeah. So I guess as a family, to be able to enjoy those same pastimes, it means that you can holiday.
Yes.
You're making the same holiday choices. You're making, all of those things. You're not going to cause any turbulence or conflict.
Yes. Yeah.
But on that, one question I wanted to ask is, what lessons do you think the ocean has taught you that you feel called to share with others? So I feel like what you were talking about with, you go out there, rain, hail or shine.
Yes, exactly.
Good or bad surf.
Yep. I guess that motivation, just it's always humbling, not when it's all small and onshore and, it just kind of benign, but if you do have to treat it with respect. There's rips, there's rocks, there's currents, there's sharks, you've just got to be, it kind of humbles you. And especially I've been now getting older, when the surf gets above like 6 to 8 foot, I'll be 8 footer, even a 6 foot coming on my head on a beachy. I'm just like, oh, here we go. Like, just hold it. It's usually okay, but it's a humbling spot. But it gives you, it's a great for your health, for your mental health, for just being in nature, to just reconnect, to kind of re-earth, to just everyone can be anyone on land, but in the ocean, that's all kind of washed away, and yeah, it's kind of on a level playing field.
That's something I've actually touched on with conversations with other people. I had a conversation with a free diver, and we were talking about our experiences. She's an instructor, and I've done a free diving qualification. And when I was on my course, it blew me away that I was in a room, male, female, spanning the ages from sort of young to old, different vocations, but everyone had that same draw, and it's so fascinating.
It is.
Like you say, like it's a real leveler.
Yep.
But what you just touched on as well, like being in the nature, again, is something that I feel when you're a water lover, you're sort of you feel compelled to advocate for the environment. And I know that you've been involved with quite a few marine environmental sort of campaigns. On one of them in particular that you wanted to share was the dolphin pool in Bali. Can you tell me more about it?
Yeah, so I think it was 2015. And had a work trip, was doing the forecast for the Karamas competition in Bali on the East Coast. And I was just having a surf in between work and looking at the event. And I remember walking back, it was just down the beach from Karamas. And I was in the surf at a wave called Car Parks, and I could hear this whistle. And I thought it was a soccer game or something. It was just like a whistle. And there was a local Indonesian guy. And I said, "What's the whistling? Were they practicing soccer over there?" And he's like, "No, dolphin." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And then I looked back, and you had the dunes, and then every time the whistle came, you could see the dolphins jumping out. And I'm like, they're in a pool or resort of some sort. They can see the ocean. It's that close. They're just on the dune, and they're trapped in there. So I went up and had a look, and I was like, wow, there's dolphins in this resort pool. So I remember I came back home. And I think I mulled it over for a while. I was like, this isn't right. Like, I wonder if there's anything we can do. So I thought about starting I started a petition on change.com, and it was to free these dolphins. So I found out there were 4 dolphins in there, and they were in a chlorinated pool, so they were getting burnt eyes. They'd had their teeth removed. This all came out as the petition kind of took off, and I had some like influencers go in and take videos, and that really helped push it. But I put it on the website on Swellnet, and it got a few thousand signatures. And then I remember, I think the Herald Sun or someone had seen the story. I don't know if it was a slow news day or something, but it ended up on the second page of the Herald Sun, like a full page photo of me, and then talking about the dolphins in Bali, and a link to it. And from there, it went viral, and started getting all the newspapers, radio, TV. And the thing is, because everyone loves dolphins, they saw that they were actually in harm, like getting their teeth pulled out. So people swimming with them wouldn't hurt them when they bite. And the pool was tiny. So I remember it had big reshares by like models and celebrities like Kelly, and even I think Pamela Anderson got behind it. But anyway, it just reshared, and it ended up to be at that time the biggest petition in Australia. Like, I think in the end we got 450,000 signatures, which the thing is, I didn't understand. I started this petition wanting to free them, but as it started growing, I had one of the ladies at Change. She helped me. She was like my assistant, because she had to start dealing with the government in Bali and like the president. So in the end, what happened is that we got so many signatures that we started, they've had a login website to book, and we just said everyone spam the website so it'd crash it. So because they got too many emails, it just crashed, so then they couldn't book. And then from there, it just kept building momentum, and all these things were happening. And the president, Indian Joko Widodo, I think his name is, he went to visit in the end, which is how much of a kind of snowball this thing gained. It was stressful for me at the time, because I was getting reports that who I was dealing with in Bali, and they're like, you can't go back. They want you kind of gone. You've damaged this thing, which is worth so much money. And the president went, and he actually said, this isn't good, but we're going to invest in getting them a bigger pool in that. And it's like, no, well, actually, they're like, still in a tiny pool. They need to be freed. And Chido Barry from Dolphin Project, they'd set up pens for rehabilitation where they could be taken into the open ocean in these pens. They can never go back to the wild because they don't know how to catch fish and that themselves anymore. And it went on for, I think, 4 years, and in the end they finally closed down, I think because they lost the business, people going there. I think the tide's turning against, like SeaWorld and all those kind of, what's the word for it, in the captive dolphins and all that.
Yeah.
And it got shut down. So there is still traveling circuses with the dolphins. That was a big win. We thought it wasn't going to end up closing down, but yeah, that was a huge turning point. And I was just one person who made a petition that I saw something going wrong, and it just snowballed and took off. And I ended up on the project. So it just became bigger and bigger. It was, a crazy time.
I'll put the links in the show notes so people can have a look. But I feel like it's such a powerful story because, just one person. You're just one person, but look at what you were able to achieve. And I feel like we're living in unhinged times. There's a lot of crazy things going on in the world. And I feel like, I know myself, I feel really powerless to do much. It sort of feels like you can't do anything. And I think that your story is a perfect example of actually you can.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
It's so inspiring.
Exactly. And for it to reach the government officials in Indonesia, and then they were getting their fisheries department people going and visiting and talking with the change people, like through different, nations. It's pretty incredible to look back on.
Have you been back to Bali since?
Went, last November for, a trip. And all good, I think. So I just stay low.
I feel like, it's just incredible. And so if you could name one life lesson that the ocean has taught you, what would it be?
One life lesson. I guess if you feel like you want to change career or take a different path or that, just go for it. Because that's what I did from starting to surf and then change my direction on studying oceanography and climate science. That shift changed my life, but it was the best decision I ever made. Just go for it. You can always go back to what you did. Just take the risk. It's not looking back. It was a huge decision for me, but it's worth taking. It'll be fine. Yes.
But just so from that life lesson, I wonder if also you might want to share any messages or lessons from what you do. I feel like you have an understanding of the ocean that many people don't, probably through the forecasting and I guess the science. And we live in a nation, the country's surrounded by water, and we spend a lot of, I like the Australian lifestyle. We spend so much time down the beach. So do you think, is there anything that you'd like to sort of share about that?
Just that the oceans are warming. We're seeing the impacts with tropical species pushing further south. The water in winter, especially in Sydney, staying warmer for longer. It doesn't cool off like it used to. A more intense rainfall. We are influencing the climate through, just everyone using cars, planes, petrol. So it's just, we know that's happening. As if we can each of us adjust to that and reduce our impact, those little changes do add up. And then in the end, for our future kids, hopefully they have this pristine environment still to come and enjoy. The earth will always be there. It's just how it evolves for our future kids, how they deal with it, or how it's presented to them. Yeah.
I feel like you're in a unique position because you're looking at those stats every day, and they are stats. It's science.
Yes,
it's not.
It's very obvious.
Yeah, exactly. And then also, I wonder if now you being a father has influenced, I guess, the way you see the world and your relationship with the ocean. Do you think?
Yeah, I think getting the connection with your children or taking them out in nature, even camping into the bush or down to the beach to play in the sand, or it's great for them. They're sponges, as you know. They just pick up everything, and then they're just keen to see all the beautiful things in nature. Mia right now, she's realized or discovered rainbow. She loves saying rainbow, and I'm like, it's just gorgeous. So, and all the ocean animals. She'll see the whales, the dolphins, turtles. So just show the kids the world, the nature, because then they'll be ingrained in them, to protect it and look after it.
It makes me feel really emotional. I don't know. Did you see I made a reel with my kids the other day because Like, we obviously spend a lot of time at the beach, and it's the only place,
Yeah.
or that sort of helps regulate their nervous systems. But my son in particular, there's a spot where we live on the coast. It's a little lagoon. It's sort of protected from prevailing winds and swell. I sort of go there sort of low to mid tide because it's nice and safe for him, and put a little life jacket in his snorkels. And it's, he can just swim around, face in the water, even like not even with a snorkel, fascinated
taking it all
at
in.
everything.
It's another
He's
world.
just,
Yes.
yeah, and we sort of made this reel specifically about shark nets and whales. And he's got his own opinion. I mean, he's 6. He's got his own opinions and his own understanding. And he understands shark nets aren't going to keep him safe. And he understands about, obviously in a very basic way, but
yes,
yeah, exactly. And sort of ecosystem
yes,
harmony. He understands that you sort of need everything.
that's it. And you don't overtake too much of that, because then it's going to just flow on. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. We just can't keep burning fossil fuels forever and not see an impact, as we're seeing around the world now.
So, yeah, it goes back to what we were saying. It just feels like it's so hard to know how to make a change. So I think if I can take anything away from everything that you've said today, is we do have power to make a change. We just need to make our voices heard and just start. They just start.
Yeah. That's it. And the people who don't believe it, they're probably not going to change their mind. But if you have a conversation, you can try and get that going, or get them thinking, okay, yes.
And so where can people follow you?
Well, Swellnet, I'm on there every day doing the forecast, or in the comments, or just on Instagram as well. Just my name, Craig Brokensha. But yeah, and if you see me around the surf, say hello.
Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yep, no worries. Thank you, Katie. I loved it.
Thank you so much for diving in with us. If this episode Thank you so much for diving in with us. If this episode inspired you, I would love for you to follow or subscribe, leave a quick review, and share it with somebody who needs some Blue Mind inspiration today. Next week's guest talks to us about how following the pull of the ocean can change everything. From the personal passion of a few, it has become a purpose that is now transforming countless lives through surfing and ocean connection. Thank you for listening.